There's a quiet moment in every life when the road stops being a road. It doesn't end. It simply dissolves into something softer, something that no longer leads you forward, but inward. Most people mistake that moment for loss. They think they've gone astray, that the compass failed, that the map burned in the rain. But sometimes, the rain wasn't meant to wash away your direction. It was meant to reveal that there was never anywhere to go. You see, the search itself was a story the mind told, so it wouldn't have to feel the stillness beneath it, the longing, the reaching, the endless motion, all of it a way to avoid what waits in the silence. And yet, that silence, that aching, patient presence, that was the place all along. The heart has a strange way of remembering what the mind forgets. It remembers the sound of home, even when it's been buried beneath years of noise. It remembers the rhythm of belonging, even after we've forgotten how to rest. When you begin to slow down, not out of choice, but out of exhaustion, something inside you starts to listen again, to the quiet, to the wind brushing the old wooden door, to the rain tapping its slow song against the glass, to the soft, rhythmic pulse that was always yours. You start to notice how everything around you has been speaking to you in silence. The flicker of the fire, the creak of the chair, the way the light bends across the room. Not hurried, not desperate, just existing. And you realize the world was never hiding. It was waiting for you to stop being a traveler, waiting for you to become a witness. When you stop searching, you don't become empty. You become vast. You realize that all the places you longed for, the quiet forests, the distant shores, the faces you missed, they were never destinations. They were reflections of the stillness within you that you refuse to see. There's a curve most people never see, a turning point where the road inward begins to look like nothing. And because it looks like nothing, they run from it. They fill it with sound, with purpose, with movement. But if you stay there long enough, in that strange, echoing quiet, something miraculous happens. You begin to see that the emptiness is not a void. It is fullness in disguise. It is the soul, waiting to be recognized. You start to sense that the place you were searching for was never a location in the world, but a posture of being, a way of sitting with yourself, without turning away. There's a kind of peace that doesn't arrive with fanfare. It arrives like dusk, slow, inevitable, blurring the edges of everything. You don't notice it at first. You only realize later that you stop needing to be elsewhere. The years begin to feel lighter, not because they've vanished, but because you've stopped fighting their weight. You carry them differently now, like river stones. Smooth, cold, honest. Each one a piece of where you've been. Each one, in its own way, a mirror of what remains. You begin to forgive yourself for all the ways you tried to escape, for all the times you thought peace was a prize you had to earn. And in that forgiveness, the body loosens, the heart expands. You start to breathe in rhythm with the room again, with the rain, with the wind, with the slow heartbeat of the earth itself. That's when you begin to understand. Stillness was never silence. It was presence, and presence is the most honest form of love. When the soul grows older, it doesn't crave excitement. It craves gentleness. It begins to seek what doesn't move, because only the unmoving can be trusted. So you sit there, watching the fire curl into itself, and something in you whispers, this is enough. No revelation, no reward, just a quiet recognition that you have arrived, not at a place, but at yourself. And for the first time, you don't need to search anymore. You simply listen to the rain and the faint sound of your own breathing and realize they are the same song. There comes a night when silence no longer feels empty. It begins to breathe. At first, it feels strange, almost unsettling, as if the air around you has become aware of itself. The rain outside softens, the fire murmurs, and every sound, the smallest crackle, the faint sigh of the wind, feels like it's saying something, but it doesn't speak in words. It speaks in wait, in pauses, in the space between thoughts. And as you sit there, you start to notice that the stillness inside you matches the stillness outside, like two mirrors facing one another, reflecting eternity back and forth, until there is no line between them. That is the moment the past begins to dissolve, not because you force it to fade, but because it has nowhere left to cling. It needed your restlessness to survive. It needed your constant motion, your belief that you were unfinished. But now, as your hands rest on your knees, and your breath moves like a tide through your chest, the past becomes soft. It loses its edges. It no longer asks to be remembered. It simply exists as warmth, a background hum in the great silence. You begin to understand that memories aren't cages. They're echoes of what you once needed to know. They appear when the heart is ready to forgive the person you once were. And forgiveness, you find, is not an act. It is an atmosphere. It arrives the way dawn arrives, without reason, without effort. It simply seeps into the cracks. Where resistance once lived, you breathe deeper. You notice that your body, for the first time in years, isn't waiting for anything. Not for love, not for purpose, not even for peace. It just is. And that isness, that gentle being, is more profound than anything you've ever achieved. You realize how long you've been running, not from others, but from yourself, from the weight of your own tenderness, from the quiet knowledge that all the chasing in the world was only a way to avoid standing still, because standing still means meeting the truth face to face. It means seeing yourself without the armor of motion, without the noise of ambition. And in that stillness, you finally meet the soul, not as an idea, but as presence. It doesn't speak, doesn't argue, doesn't comfort. It just looks back at you as you both breathe, and in that breath, everything you thought you lost returns, not as possession, but as peace. You begin to see how the world outside mirrors this. The fire consumes itself and glows brighter. The rain falls without hesitation. Even the shadows on the wall move without purpose. And yet everything is whole. You whisper to yourself, almost by accident, I was never missing. And the room answers back, not in words, but in warmth. All your life, you were told to seek meaning, to dig, to climb, to conquer. But here, in this room, in this quiet, meaning dissolves into being. You understand now why peace once felt unfamiliar. It wasn't because it was rare. It was because you didn't recognize yourself in it. You had learned to see identity in motion, not in stillness. You had mistaken exhaustion for a purpose. You had believed that to be alive meant to be striving. But what if life was not something to be reached, but something that unfolds? When you stop reaching, the older soul begins to smile at this thought, not out of irony, but out of recognition. It remembers what it felt like before the noise began, before the world taught it. That existence must be earned. And suddenly, you are both the child and the elder, both the wanderer and the home. You remember the feeling of rain on your skin, the first breath of morning after a long night, the way silence could once make you tremble. And you realize it was never trying to scare you. It was trying to return you to the rhythm of your own heart. All the people you loved, all the places you left, all the faces that blurred into memory, they are still here, not outside you, but within the same vast field of stillness that now breathes through you. And you understand, perhaps for the first time, that love was never between two people. It was the space in which they met. That space, the invisible thread that connects, the quiet awareness that listens. That is what you are, and you can no longer lose it. When you stop chasing the world begins to rest in you, and that quietly is the beginning of freedom. There is a silence that doesn't wait for you to fill it. It simply arrives, like an old friend returning home. And in that silence, something shifts, not loudly, not even noticeably. It's like the faint turning of the earth beneath your feet, invisible, yet undeniable. You realize You are no longer looking for anything. Not peace, not purpose, not closure. The search itself, that endless movement of the mind, has gone still. You are not at the center of the story anymore. You are the field in which the story appears. And suddenly, the word home stops meaning a place. It becomes a presence, a breathing awareness, so gentle, so vast, that even grief feels safe inside it. You sit there, watching the fire crumble into ash. Each ember glows like a fading heartbeat. Each spark rises, flickers, and disappears. You used to think endings were cruel. Now you see, they are simply quiet transformations, forms dissolving into their essence, names returning to the nameless. And you, too, are dissolving, not dying, but merging with the same stillness that once frightened you. You see now that the self you defended for so long was only a ripple on the surface of something vast, and beneath it, beneath all the effort and fear, was a quiet, unbroken awareness that never left you. It watched you fall in love. It watched you lose. It watched you run and return and run again. And it never said a word because it knew you would find your way back. Every sorrow, every mistake, every grasp for meaning, they were all part of the same movement that led you here. You begin to smile softly, the kind of smile that doesn't belong to happiness, but to understanding. You see the pattern now, the circle that life keeps drawing, birth into loss, loss into clarity, clarity into stillness, and stillness into love. The mind wants to call it completion, but it isn't that. It's something quieter, something that doesn't need a name. The rain outside is slowed. Each drop sounds like a heartbeat. The world feels smaller now, but more infinite than ever. You whisper to yourself, not as an affirmation, but as a remembrance. I was never going anywhere. And with that, the last thread of resistance breaks. Not because you forced it, but because you no longer needed to hold on. You can finally see what the soul was trying to show you, that you were never broken, only searching for yourself. In reflections, all those years of running, they were sacred, necessary, because without the distance, you would have never known the beauty of returning. Now, even loneliness feels different. It no longer hurts. It simply is. A quiet space in which presence can breathe. You realize that loneliness was never the absence of others. It was the call of your own being, asking to be noticed. And now that you have noticed, it doesn't ache anymore. It sings, softly, like rain falling into the sea. The fire has nearly gone out. Only a few embers remain, glowing in the dark. You watch them, and for the first time, you understand the kindness of endings, how everything that burns is only returning to light. You begin to feel something rise within you, not joy, not sadness, but a deep tenderness for everything that ever was. The people who hurt you, the moments that broke you, the versions of yourself you abandoned. You hold them all now, not in memory, but in forgiveness. You see them not as mistakes, but as fragments of the same longing, the longing to remember who you were before the noise began. And now at last, you remember, not through thought, but through stillness, through the gentle realization that there is nowhere to arrive and nothing to fix. The journey ends where it began, in presence, in breath, in this. You feel it, the world breathing with you, the rain, the fire, the quiet pulse of existence. That doesn't need to be understood, to be holy, and in that realization, you are gone, not vanished, but expanded, dissolved into everything you were chasing. You are the warmth of the fire. You are the rhythm of the rain. You are the silence that sits patiently beneath all sound. There is no longer a you watching it. There is only watching, only being. And from that stillness, a soft truth arises, one that has no need to be spoken. You were never lost. You were the place. You were always the place.